Board of Education regular session for Thursday, March 20th, 2018 is now called to order. Mr. Curry, if you would be so kind as to lead us in a prayer.
Sure. Bow your heads, please. Thank you, Lord, for this evening. As we lead our district, we ask that you bless all the board members, the families, the parents, as we proceed in Madison County Schools. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Welcome, everyone. What a crowd. We'll start out with a few updates. We had, yesterday, we had a weather event, and we had a lot of moving pieces. We kind of tried something a little bit different. We tried to, dismiss everybody at one time, and that was at 12:30, really just to see if we could do that. If the timing ever had to happen where we had to get everybody off the campus, and so we tried that and pulled it off, and we learned some things in the process, but we got everybody home, and I want to thank all the school administrators and all the departments that worked together to make that happen. We had ACT testing today for our juniors, and any of you juniors out there take a test today? How did y'all do? Feel okay? Yeah? A little tired? So that is now the accountability piece for our schools. It goes into the school's actual report card, depends on how well y'all do on that. So that is now a high-stakes test, not just for you, but for our schools. And so it was for the rest of the high schools, it was an e-learning day that you guys had assignments through Canvas and that kind of thing, because we had to have proctors and administrators to administer those tests. Next week is spring break. Ooh, all right. So everybody is ready for that. And I also want to point out, we got some artwork in the back. Anna Parks is the art teacher at Newmarket School. Their students competed in a cityscape art project, so their paintings will be displayed at the Huntsville Museum of Art, and so we're going to probably take some of those works and display them here too. So wanted to celebrate those, and so we'll get started, and we'll recommend approval. I recommend approval of the agenda for March 20th, 2018.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I recommend approval of the minutes for January the 4th, January 18, February 1, and February 22nd, 2018.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Well, Ms. Rucker, thank you. Did you have trouble finding parking tonight?
The train.
And the train. So trains and parking.
That'll do it.
So parking was at a premium. So we're going to shift the recognitions around, but since we're here, we'll go ahead and start off and recognize some of our champions. And so to get recognized at a Board of Education meeting, we have a pretty high threshold. You got to be a champion. And so we're so glad that we've got so many champions in the room tonight. We're going to start off with the Monrovia Middle School Scholars Bowl team. It's coached by Gene Cox and Brad Holman. Mr. Cox, Mr. Holman, we're going to invite you and your team to come up, and we'll get board members around. And if you just want to share a couple words, you're welcome to do that. So congratulations for Monrovia Middle School. Congratulations.
You come hang out with
They have a formation already.
You got Mr. Schroeder now.
Just to give you an idea of what the Monrovia Middle School Scholars Bowl team has accomplished this year. They went to Itawamba, Mississippi and went undefeated in Mississippi in a 2-state tournament. They won Russellville national qualifier for NAQT. They went undefeated at the Lamp High School Invitational in Montgomery. They went undefeated at Liberty Invitational. They went undefeated at the Madison County regular season. They went undefeated at the Madison County tournament. They were second place at the Hoover Melee, but they were the first team in the state of Alabama, as it was a different state that won the tournament. They went undefeated at the district tournament at Challenger. They went undefeated at the state tournament against the 30 toughest teams here in the state of Alabama with a record of 67-4. I give you the 2018 Middle School Scholars Bowl champions. They are the Monrovia Hawks.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. All right. So next up, we have Buckhorn High School's bowling team, and this is coached by Miss Brittany Cornell and Miss Whitney Box is administrator. Y'all come on up. Y'all give them a round of applause. All right, Ms. Bogus, you want to share a few words?
Okay, so this is the Buckhorn Bowling Boys' second year of existing. We were the first team in the state to win a national grant through USBC, which we received $2,500. During the season, we were 11-1 with an area record, 19-3 overall, and went perfect 4-0 in the state tournament. Which was a big feat because we were bowling against Vestavia basically in their home house with probably 100 people cheering them on, and our fans were trying to root against them. So we got down against them, but the guys fought back and were able to come back and beat them. We were almost down 100 pins, and were able to come back and get them by about 54 pins. So it truly showed a lot of courage because these guys, we had 5 bowlers. Most other teams had 8 or 10 guys competing on them. So.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, we're gonna go this way. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's right. You had to teach us something. Congratulations. 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 All right.
All right, and next up, we have your world champion cheerleader squad, Spartan Center. It's like a triage. I know you'll have mine. All right, I'll share
Hi, my name's Lisa Adderholt. I coach at Spartan High School. This is my 26th year there. Through this time, between my mother's reign and myself, we have accumulated 13 national championships and 1 world championship. This is our first time to compete in it this year, and the kids came back and won it. And the rest of the season went really well as well. We competed at camp and won 2 first-place trophies in the divisions we ran. We competed in the UCA Southern Regional competition and won first. The AHSAA state competition, they won first. And we got down to nationals, and it's kind of like I've said before. You know, Alabama won the national championship, but they couldn't win the SEC championship. Well, that's kind of how we felt, all right? We could win the world, but we couldn't win the nationals. We placed second. We had some issues with our ending pyramid, and ended up finishing second. But then we came back and regrouped the next day and won the world. And if you can see them, we've had 4 surgeries since we've been back, and we had 3 broken bones. So we were really the walking wounded. We were held together by athletic tape and pre-wrap and a lot of the leads. But they persevered and they made it through, and I'm so proud of this team. So the 2018 World Champions. We need to squeeze tighter. Suck it in,
Stay put. Good job. I'm gonna let you take your hand off the treasure. Once you fall down on the floor.
Congratulations.
That's what I said. Go around the back.
Now we're all back.
Good, man. You all right? I want the broken
All right, and our next group of champions is from Hazel Green. It's our 6A girls basketball state champions led by Coach Tim Miller. So give it up for
Well, I was trying to get one of the seniors to speak because they normally like to talk a lot in the locker room. I can't get them speaking, public speaking, so I couldn't get them to speak at all. This group, Mr. Madison said they had won 6A. We're the best team in the state of Alabama according to AL.com. In the super, in the super Power 10 rankings, they were ranked #1. We beat Spain Park and won the state championship in 7A. We beat them in the MLK by 10 or 15. Of course, we beat Ramsey, who was the number 2 ranked team in the state of Alabama. We beat them in 6A. Charles Henderson won 5A. We beat them in the AL.com Classic. For this senior group, I can say the last 4 years they went 133-14. They were undefeated in 4 years at home at Hazel Green. We're 72-0. 4 area championships, 4 regional championships, 4 Final Fours. Last year we were the runner-up state champs, and then this year we actually won it. So I'm tickled pink, especially for our senior class, for what they've accomplished for this year. And one of the most important things I like about this group, as a team, we have a 3.9 GPA.
There we go. She's taking charge.
So champions, you are welcome to sit down for the entire board meeting.
Maybe you're coming back next year. Good luck. Congratulations.
Yeah. No kidding. Pissed and walk away.
No one wants to stay for the rest of the meeting. They're all leaving.
Get your water, bro.
All right, and where's the list? Is it on here? Okay, no. Do you have a list of who's here to speak?
Yes, you do.
Request? And those come later
We are going to
after.
come with those after the
Yeah.
informational items.
Gotcha.
All right, Ms. Stovall. Ms. Stovall's
Top
going to
that.
address us there on some,
Okay, so now I'm at this.
the 504 manual.
What am I going to do with this? So the 504 documents in front of you are from the Alabama Association of 504 Coordinators in December. They met with Rod Lewis's direction. He's the lead who does all the litigation with 504, so he updated basically this whole manual. So everything we had is now updated. So I just wanted to make sure you are aware of the changes and give you an update on that. So the first part, the only thing that's changed from the first part, they deleted the main page that showed all of the board members. So the next page with the table of contents, they deleted Form P, which we had new last year. It was that extracurricular for athletics. I think they felt it was unnecessary, so they just deleted that from our listing. They also deleted the overview of the forms because the forms are now simplistic and self-explanatory, so they're easier to understand. Most of the changes occur in Part 2. So if you look at Part 2, the update is that they changed the appeal process to now become the review procedure. I think that they felt the word appeal was a little stronger, but it's just going over, after it goes through a disciplinary hearing, then it comes back for review from the district. The next big change is the forms, which is Part 3. In the referral form, I'm just going to go through each of the basic forms to just give you the overview of the forms. They look totally different, but the information is basically the same. So on Form A, they added the date, the sex of the student, the school, the phone number, and the email. They no longer listed check boxes because they felt that was leading for parents, so just giving you a box for the parent to explain the reasons for the referral and the impairment, so we can specifically know what the parent is addressing or the concerns of the parent. And you can stop me anytime if you notice changes or have questions about the forms, okay? Form B, they basically changed the wording of the first line. It's more so of an invitation instead of just telling you this is a meeting, because it's an invitation, because if you don't show up, they can still have the meeting. Form C, they just changed the wording of the procedural safeguards for the parent. It cleaned up the definition to be more specific, and then it gave the main purpose. The main purpose of 504 is to meet the individual needs of the student as adequately as non-disabled peers. It doesn't mean that it goes above and beyond, but just to provide their needs as the other students are provided. Form D, it clarifies for school the different stages. So they put in the initial referral form section and the reevaluation. Those are the two main times that they do a 504 process. Form E, they simplified the rating scale. Before you had a bunch of boxes, and it was kind of hard for teachers and the school 504 coordinator to put it together. So they simplified that rating scale and added some common areas of concern that we saw over and over again, which is attendance, difficulty to follow directions, social skills, non-compliance, and hyperactivity.
Is it just an error on the form? It's got your address on the comparison to non-disability as appears on the side.
If you're looking at the one where they put it all together,
yeah,
then it was
okay.
a formatting error. If you
Okay.
look on the individual forms, it doesn't show up. So
Okay.
it's just a glitch right there. That I'll correct. Form F, again, it just cleans up the language. Before we had a lot of boxes that the parent was checking, so it felt like they were leading the parent into telling them what's wrong with the child instead of the parent telling us. So that's why it's just boxes that the parent fills in the information instead of check boxes, because we can't know everything that's wrong with the child, but the parent may give us more information. Form G, it flows with the actual meeting. So the first part is it's summarizing data, then it goes into the eligibility determination, and then it gets the signatures. Form H, the only addition was the student's name. That would be good to know in a meeting, so the paperwork doesn't get confused. Form I, they added the duration dates of the 504 plan because it's not a plan that extends forever. So giving the parent notification of when the actual starts and stops was added. And it targets the actual needs of the student instead of, before it just listed the classes and you just check off what the student needed in those classes. This one actually just targets the needs of the student and lists those services. Form J, it just added data sources. And then it put the whole district on the same behavior intervention plan. Form K is just a signature. Before it had all teachers signing one sheet of paper. Now, as you receive it, the teacher will receive this one sheet and then turn it back in. So they don't have to go around to collect them from each individual teacher. Form L just changed the word student to child. Form M, it gave a shorter list of data sources, and then it directly ties to our code of conduct because this is a manifestation determination to review the conduct in question, so it ties back to our code of conduct. And it changed the word misconduct in the 2 questions to actually just conduct, because we can't prejudge their conduct to be misconduct. Form N, it just clarified the decision, what it was. It's more specific. And then again, the data list matches the other forms. And Form O is the complaint form, it just has minor adjustments. And there was no change in Part 4. Do you have any questions or concerns about the minutes?
Can you say what you said at the very beginning? Where did all these changes come from?
Rod Lewis is the attorney for Alabama's 504. He does most of the litigation in the state of Alabama. And so he and the Alabama Association for 504 coordinators, the administrative team, got together and created the forms. Yeah, the forms aren't from the state of Alabama. The State Department does not put out forms for 504. So this association does all the forms.
So a student that's identified as 504, if there is a rule infraction, you have a manifestation hearing for them, just like you would a student with an IEP. Is that correct?
It follows the same procedure because the 504 safeguards are the same for students with disabilities. So the manifestations, if you're going to change their placement, which is any placement greater than 10 days, then you have to have a manifestation determination to determine if their disability was impacted by that behavior. Any other questions or concerns? Okey-doke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wilson? That's your way.
You're going to take my
I'm
back.
going to turn off that projector so it's not blinding folks.
Oh, gotcha. The one
So
coming that way.
stuff.
The one that goes to the back. That one okay, you think?
So what do you got? Just because it's kind of blinding speakers.
Oh. Gotcha.
Is that okay?
I think so. I couldn't figure out who it was blinding, but now that you say that.
Yeah, it was.
My computer is like being really strange.
Yeah, and it does if you're standing there to speak. It's right in your face.
So Mr. Wilson has an exciting presentation. It is, the anticipation is building with us here.
I really will make my computer be able to see that far.
Computers are always exciting.
Okay, I'll do it from there.
Yeah, we did that so it wouldn't be in your eyes. Sorry about that.
I'm very excited about this, y'all. We've been working on this for some time. This is a new step we're doing, and we've not been able to do this for the last 10 years. So a little bit of the background. The last time we did this was in 2008. Currently on our network, we have 35,000 devices on our network. We have 3,398 Windows 7 machines, 956 XP machines. As some of y'all may know, XP came out in 2003. These are very old. We've got to get rid of them. They have huge security vulnerabilities for users that might be mischievous. We've also we're running 4 versions of Microsoft Office. So sometimes it's hard for us to go back and forth. And our teachers in the classroom, some of them are still using a Windows XP machine. So what we want to do, we have a 5-year replacement for all of our labs. Every 5 years our labs are updated. And we're able to manage that out of the computer services budget. What we want to try to do now, and going along with our strategic plan, is put a plan in place where we can do that with the teacher machines as well. This will put us all in a schedule. After we'll get into a lease. After that, we will proceed to update the machines again. This ties right in with our strategic plan. Oh, heck, that's the wrong number up there. I'm sorry. What we're going to do is get 1,100 machines. These are for teacher instruction only. Ms. O'Bannon can speak where the money comes from, but these are going to be what I consider screamer machines. They're actually better than anything my department has on our desk. They're all solid-state devices. They've got 16 gig of RAM right in them off the bat. They're going to have a 4-year warranty. The company we're going to contract with will come in and set them up and get them operational for our entire schools. There I did the 1100. What we're going to try to do, and Ms. O'Bannon can elaborate on this if you want, but we've got a waiver from the state to use textbook money for 2 years basically. And what we're doing, since this is going to impact curriculum right off the bat, the state decided to let us have that waiver. So what we want to do is actually in April, this April, is start deploying those. And the reason we chose April to do it is some of our teachers are going to go from a Windows XP machine to a Windows 10 machine. And if y'all have done that before, that's a pretty good learning curve. So what we're going to do, Ms. Sullivan has already created quite a few educational links, and we're going to put a Canvas course together. But if we give them to the teachers in April, then they will have a whole month for us to work out a lot of the issues. Because we thought about it in the summer, but then they would come back to school. They've got new kids, new classes, and new technology they all have to learn. So we're hoping we'll get a jump on the game. So we should make it all work. We've got our logistics pretty much figured out. But by doing this one fell swoop, we will impact every student and every teacher every day for the next few years to come. And with this technology, we think it's not just a new computer. This is a new awesome computer, and this thing should last and work for quite a while. We're putting 2 video outs in it. One could go to their projector, which isn't working, and another one could go to their monitor. So, but it's really a great thing, and everybody, the teachers are excited about it. A couple of them that found out about it, and this is the best thing I've done in years, and it's going to impact the teachers and the kids, and that's what I'm here for anyway. So I'm trying to do that.
So it's a pretty huge deal. We'll let Ms. O'Bannon chime in.
You can chime in,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Evans. Let me assure you, we're not taking textbooks out of our kids' hands to do this, nor the curriculum software. All that's been covered for this year. We haven't had a major textbook adoption in several years, and we don't have one this year, nor do we have one next year. And this money would revert back to the state. That's left over. We have about, Mr. Evans, 650, 700,000?
Around 650,000.
So we asked for permission to flex the funds, because typically you can only use it for instructional software and instructional textbooks. And we asked if we could flex the money in our final budget amendment to purchase these devices for the classroom. And because it's for the classroom, the state will allow us to do that. They don't want us to lose the money either, or for it to revert back to the state. But we have met all the needs. Mr. Evans can assure you that in the textbook arena for this year, we've set aside a few funds for something we might need this summer. But the same holds true for next year. So with the purchasing of 1,100 devices, probably we'll need to finance it over 2 years. We haven't worked out that piece yet because we don't have, it's what, close to $1 million?
Yes,
We have around 650,000 this year, and we'll have that much next year. So I haven't met with the Dale person yet to work those arrangements out, but we'll make sure to bring that to you.
So Mr. Evans and I kind of work, and as a team, we all did kind of work with the state on, since this can be used for instructional supplies, and teachers deliver instruction through their computer, and they have software and programs, and basically they're, even though we got Chromebooks, it's just kind of a web browser. You can't download the software and teaching things that they use. So this is something that, you know, Mr. Evans kind of wrote the waiver for the state. We submitted, and I talked to the, deputy superintendent there, and they were actually excited about, this is something that's going to impact kids' lives. Mr. Evans, anything else?
One of the things that I want to make clear to the board, over the last 11 years, most school systems have spent general fund money on textbooks. We have never spent any general fund money on textbooks, but we have provided every teacher with the book they needed, the book they wanted. Every child that wanted a book could have a book. But what we have done, and our school has done a great job, is we have a good accountability mode that principals and teachers and assistant principals who do the yeoman's work, they keep up with their books. So we're not missing 750 books here. Some school systems, may lose up to 1,000 books a year. Well, some books now, the price of books range from $85 to $285, depending on what the course is. So by saving, and again, the credit all goes back to the schools for keeping up with their inventories and only ordering what they needed, and we move them from place to place. So that's how we were able to have this money, because we haven't been in the hole from year to year to year. So I
And
think this is a great use.
And the caveat on this is it's got to be in the classroom that delivers content to a teacher. So you see we have about 1,300 or so certified employees, but 1,100 devices, because the stipulation was it's got to be to deliver content to students. So it's
Correct.
going to be going to our teachers.
Our total number is 1,076 will receive these machines.
So would it be safe to say all these XP computers will be gone?
They will be gone.
Be gone?
And the other ones, we're not taking everything away. We're not going to take out 1,100 machines. We're going to get rid of a lot of these XPs. A lot of them have already fallen. But anything that's still in the school usable, we'll build a lab with it, or the teacher may want a secondary machine for the kids to use in their classroom. So the only thing we're really not getting rid of is our XP boxes, which a lot of those are in labs that we're replacing right now anyway. So it's just going to greater build on what we have and allow the schools a little more flexibility in machines that they've purchased over the last couple of years.
Mark, I know some of our schools are going to a different type of interactive board.
Yes, ma'am.
So these computers will run that.
They're designed for that.
Okay.
And what they got an HDMI out, which will fit, like these projectors, they can't handle that good of a signal. But our new panels that we have, we've got 120 of those in the schools right now. One outlet will go to that. It'll be HDMI. The other one can go to a monitor on their desk. They could have their email and their SDI going and still be delivering instruction at the same time. So these are very nice machines.
I just know that's been a problem.
Oh, it has. And also, we're giving them a wireless keyboard and mouse right off the bat. So if I want to sit here and do instruction, I can have my keyboard and mouse right here. So they're very excited about it. And these are awesome machines, what we're getting. And the 4-year warranty, which we've never had that before. We've always gone 3, so.
So the smart boards, are they like these that they can
No,
handle?
no. They're actually like an interactive panel. So it's basically like a big TV, but they have 20 points of touch, so the kids can get up and interact, like take your consonants and put it next to the vowels and all this kind of stuff with their fingers. And anything that's on the teacher's machine, she can then draw circles around it or point or clip it out and place it over here, and the kids can come up and interact with that, or she can do a demonstration. And what's so cool about the panels, and especially with these nice machines, it'll be 4K video, but they could also record the lesson. Like if I'm doing a long algebra problem, I could be going along, I could record that, and I could throw it in my Canvas. So the kids could watch it over and over until they got the concept.
So it's like a smart board without the projector.
I know, but I mean, how many people have these boards?
120 right now, but we're hoping probably that many will happen next year as well.
So the old smart boards?
Oh, they'll still work. Oh, they'll still work.
They'll still work?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So this is every classroom teacher computer minus any other group? Any groups are not included in this, or is every group? Like special ed, Title I, or this just regular?
It's got to be in the classroom. So like
Instructional classroom.
counselors, things like that, it's got to be to deliver content there, and we'll work through.
So special ed teachers, they would get a computer, Title I?
We count those.
If they're
It depends on
if they're not
the
roaming, we counted them. You know, if they're roaming, they work out of the TRC and they're provided a laptop.
So you said it's a 4-year
4-year
lease?
warranty on them.
4-year warranty.
It'll just be a 2-year lease because that's how long Miss O'Bannon has the money for.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Last year, we had 300,000 left over from the textbooks, right? And this year, we're saying 600,000?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's that difference?
Because last year we needed for the money for our textbooks we had an art adoption last year. Last year we had like 374,000 left over that's still in our reserve fund. We used that, we used the textbook allocation, that 374,000 to purchase instructional software because that's something you're allowed to do. So that freed up that much local money to carry over in our reserve. But last year, we had more purchases of textbooks and instructional software from that allocation. That's why we had a little bit less to carry over to use.
So, man, one of the reasons that we had to spend more last year is the math adoption and reading adoption are 2 years behind, and all of your K through 8 books are consumable math books. When the 6-year contract ran out, which is basically at the end of last year, if we didn't purchase books for the next 2 years of math, the price would have been about 40% more. So we got in under the wire last year. We purchased math books for the 17-18, the 18-19 school year, so we would save that additional 40%. And high school books are hardback, so it didn't apply to them, but your K through 8, 12,000 students, we had to buy 2 more years of consumable books for them.
They adopted books where you write in them, each other page out.
Is that cost effective to do that?
That's the only thing that is offered in math now and by any of the book companies are consumable K through 8s. They don't offer a hardback book. So, and like I say, by getting them on the contract price over the 8 years, we actually paid less than they would pay for a hardback book. And you didn't have the wear and tear. When a student leaves, the teacher takes up the book, and the student coming in inherits that book from that point on, so we don't have a waste of, somebody come 2 weeks, use the book, and then leave. We take the book back up and use it again for another student.
Mark, is there any consideration of upgrading these 8.1 computers to 10? Or
Yes.
some of these 7 computers?
We're looking at it, and we would love to get everybody on 10. We just don't know. And what we do, we buy our license. With us kind of getting away from Microsoft, it's not as big a player as it used to be. It's cheaper this way just to buy a license independently for them. So what we will look at is upgrading those 8.1s to 10 and also upgrade the office as well. So then we would have even more people on the same. Yep. But this will be equal for every teacher at every school in the entire district. And it just flows right in with their strategic plan. So I just think it's a win-win for all of us.
You're going to put them on a schedule, so every, say, 5 years, we'll have
Yep.
an upgrade schedule for those teachers.
And we really think these, with being all solid state, we think we could easily get 5 out of them, maybe even 6,
You mentioned something about the students installing them.
What's going to happen, the company is going to send a project manager down, and they're going to hire 10 of our junior, senior students. And what they'll do is they'll work from 3 o'clock to like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. The students get paid $10 an hour, so we'll be giving them some pocket change. And what they'll do, we have the numbers already broken out, like each school ships enough to handle that school, and then the crew will come in there at night, put them all out in one night, pick the others up. We're going to store those for a while. We're using Roman profiles to get everything off my documents, but we'll store those computers for a while just in case a teacher needs something that, she failed to move over to my documents folder.
And they'll be hired by the company.
The company,
to
yes,
do
they're
that
taking
work.
all responsibility and liability and insurance and all that for our kids.
These kids just apply for that role, or is there already a selection?
No, we'll probably have an application little thing that the principal, we want him highly involved because we need technical, because they will have admin rights for a moment because they'll log us onto the network for the first time. But the machines are already imaged and everything, so we set it there, the teacher log in, and although her screen looks different, she should be ready to go. We've got a lot of software we've already downloaded on our master image that Dale's going to put on each machine.
All right, so.
Thank y'all very much.
So, congrats,
Thank you.
teachers. Be rolling out here in a few weeks here, so we're excited to be able to get that out. So just leave that off. Leave that off if you don't mind. That's, we're going to have, I don't want that to be shining in anybody's eyes when we got a few more come to speak. All right, Dr. Minsky?
And Mr. Massey asked me to do a brief little safety update, so I'll provide that for you. As far as yesterday's weather update, again, I want to thank Dave McCord from Transportation and his crew for getting together and getting the buses and transportation set up so that we could get students out at the same time. As Mr. Massey mentioned earlier, we want to do that as a drill, just in case we get one of those situations where we're thinking, hey, we can possibly make it through the day, and then also we get a message from National Weather Service saying, no, it's coming in 2 hours early or 3 hours early. We have to get everybody out immediately. So went very well yesterday, so very pleased with that. As far as the second thing, just touch base, a couple weeks ago we met with the Madison County School System, the Safety Task Force. So we had that initial meeting. I gave you a copy of, have a little packet for you, a copy of the agenda that we covered during that process. Again, just kind of going over some of the basics, more of a get-to-know-you type meeting than anything else. With that meeting, we also have our next meeting scheduled for April 13th. At that meeting, one of the things that I do want to bring up, and I want to have Dynetics come to that meeting and present their ground-aware software. Again, they're willing right now to try this product in the school, so a free trial for one of our schools to get everything set up. So we're going to talk to that committee and get their input, and if they're happy with it, we're going to go ahead and move forward and choose one of our schools to get that product set up and just test it to see if it could be something we could use in the future. As far as Safe Haven International, I was asked to check in with that particular company. I spoke with Michael Dorn yesterday. He holds it's the largest school safety company that basically focuses just on school safety in the country. They basically look at 5 things when they come in to do evaluations. So they look at security, they look at your policies or our policies and procedures, they look at the overall safety. So not just, a lot of times we think safety, we think of active shooter. They're talking about safety as in, do we have AEDs in the school? How many people are trained in CPR and first aid? Those type of things. So a comprehensive safety piece. They're looking at the climate and culture, which kind of gets into that safety piece, and then our emergency preparedness. So are we prepared for a tornado? Are we prepared for those type of events? So that's the 5 things that they're looking at. They're supposed to send me a proposal and have it to me this week. He did mention that he would not be able to come to a meeting. He travels about 250 days out of the year, is what he informed me. He said he would be able to set up a time if we wanted to do a video conference with some of the board members. He'd be able to do that for us in the next couple of days, that he would try to find some time. He did mention that if it's something we're trying to get done this particular school year, that as soon as possible as his calendar's beginning to fill up. So depending on how long we want to wait and make a decision on his particular company, it may have to be next fall before we get them in, but that is an option. As far as our current safety procedures, one of the best practices they talk about for safety protocols is to have a single point or a dual point of entry. Dual point of entry for the high school, so there's an entrance for the parents to come in, there's an entrance for the students to come in. We have that now set up at Sparkman High School, and at this point, if you've been to Sparkman High School, they have the front with the airlock doors. We actually have we call an A phone, which is a video camera phone that's outside of the attendance office, outside of the building. So students actually come up to that after hours. So if they arrive after the first bell, they'd have to hit the buzzer. Their picture shown to someone in the attendance office, and the attendance office clerk would have to buzz them in to get into the building. So no longer can a student at Sparkman High School open up the back door and walk into the attendance office. They have to get buzzed into the school. At Buckhorn High School, we've started construction, so we have a plan to do an airlock in the front lobby area. And Carrie, I'm going to turn this part over to you to kind of share exactly what we're doing with the airlock at the front of Buckhorn.
Yes, sir. Buckhorn High School, if you've been there, familiar with it, you come through 2 sets of doors, and then you're open to the big lobby. You go right into the office area. You go left, right directly to the kids. So we're coming in about another 15 feet, setting another storefront. We'll have key card access, and we're also having a door entry into the admin area. So everybody will stop at that location, and the receptionist inside the office area, she sees through that glass door, and she'll be allowed to buzz people into her office if they want to speak to her, whoever they need to speak to. And if it's someone she's aware of, teacher, whoever who doesn't have a badge, she can buzz them straight into the school. But nobody will have access in the front of the school to any students without coming into the front office physically. In the back of the school, we're doing the same thing. We're adding another storefront back there, and we're creating an airlock. And you'll actually come up, and there'll be 2 holes where we have 2 attendance workers that'll be there that will check students in or out. And they'll come through the first one, but they'll be set and stopped by a second set of doors, and they'll sit inside that airlock, and they'll wait for their child or whatever, instead of coming into the school and then into the attendance. The idea is that no parent will have any access to any child, because they'll be stopped by a set of doors before they get to the school.
And we're going to do something very similar. Hazel Green, you want to give them the Hazel Green overview?
Hazel Green, the front is primarily set up that way already, so we're just going to add some key cards that buzz through. They can bring you in and out. Key card swipes in the front door. The back door, we're going to also set another wall barrier, storefront. We're going to move an attendance person out in this area and create an airlock. Well, once again, parents right now, even when they come to get their child, they're allowed inside the school. And so that's going to stop. They're going to be inside an airlock, in a tempered airlock. Won't have any weather on them. And that's where they'll sit or wait till their child comes to them to leave campus.
So those are the two updates we have, and our completion date expectation is?
5 to 6 weeks. The problem is you actually have to build it and cut the holes, like in the masonry, for instance, and then you order the tempered glass. Tempered glass can't be cut. It's ordered, brought in, so that's about a 3-week item. So we've already started the construction, but 5 to 6 weeks, both places should be up and operable at that time.
The other two high schools.
They have those already.
Yeah, Madison County High and New Hope both, you walk into the front lobby and everything is locked up. You can't get access to the children.
Not to the children,
To
no.
the children, yes, ma'am. What we will probably do at New Hope and Madison County High both, we're going to come in and put a glass shield. It will be bulletproof, and it'll have a pass-through hole. So, because right now the reception ladies aren't open air to those adults and whoever, so we can stop that. That's what we'll do at the front. And we have that same system at the back, where they have an airlock at the back of the schools for attendance. Right now, their attendance comes from the front end, but if they want to move to the back side of the school at Madison County High and New Hope, those areas are already created with an airlock.
Any questions on safety procedure protocols?
I have a question on the video camera where the student walks up to the camera, buzzes the thing, the
Yes.
picture comes up. What is the safeguard for that attendance person to, I mean, at Sparkman, you've got 1,700 kids.
Now, at dismissal and arrival, doors are open as typical for students to come in. It's
I'm talking
after that, though.
for after hours when the kid comes up to when the student comes up to the door, school's already started or in session, buzzes a thing. How does that person know that that face on that camera is an active, currently enrolled student? My point is,
They'll have to ask questions. We don't have a protocol in place right now, Mr.
I
Weiss,
know,
to be
my
able to
question
say
is, that's something we need to
correct.
think of. Do we need to start giving the kids ID cards, so instead of the face, they hold up an ID card that shows that they are an active enrolled
Sparkman
student?
has ID cards for all their students.
I know they do.
Which is a great idea.
Correct, and then
Yeah,
maybe
we don't
something
have
we
that at
to-
all of our high schools, but that's something we could definitely look at. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What about Sparkman 9?
Sparkman 9, we met with the principal out there, and we're looking at their front entrance, which is their attendance and front entrance both, creating an airlock there. We have a little situation because we have a clinic that would lie in that airlock. So we're trying to work that issue, but we've already met out there to discuss how to close that off and stop all adults from coming into the building. Right now, they use the same thing, an A-phone, but this gives them an opportunity to come in out of the weather, and we lock them right there, and they won't have any more access to the students.
That's on the plan.
Yes, we've already met about that, and we're looking at trying to get it created.
So it's safe to say all the elementary schools have the airlock system at this point, all of our elementary.
Either have an A-phone or an airlock. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we are going to go back and look at, if you notice, our standard design, we started in '99 with some of the schools, or a lot of them have an airlock there at the front entrance. We'll come in and put in a key card and a buzz-through access if we want to. The nice thing, where they sit right now, they actually see the person standing right outside the door, and it's immediate response to being buzzed, and they see the full size of the person, and they come on in at those schools. There are some elementary schools that don't have that option, but we're working every school. We're trying to work through all of them, and that's where we are right now.
And one of the positives about, if the board, depending on the proposal and the price and the cost for a company like Safe Haven to come in, is they're visiting schools all across the country. They're looking at what the best practices are and what works and what doesn't work, and having that knowledge and that expertise come in and kind of share it with us would be something that would be very, very beneficial for our system. Any additional questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, the next item is discussion of the New Hope grade configuration. I had a community meeting down there, I guess last Monday, and one of the things that was brought up is, I was asked about kind of reconfiguring. Right now, Owens Crossroads is K6, which feeds into New Hope Elementary, which is K8, which feeds into New Hope High School, which is 912. And some of the limitations New Hope High School kind of has is they're, the only high school with one assistant principal, and only one counselor, albeit for 4 grades. So it's a little bit limited on those things. We did some research kind of around the other schools in Alabama in that range of students. None of them, hardly any of them, I haven't found one that's a 912. They're either a 612, a 712, or a K12. And so the question was, would we ask to kind of consider that? So we discussed that probably for several minutes there, and I see some of the folks here that were there. I just kind of wanted to bring that before the board. We ran some mock staffing with that, and generally we don't have many local teaching units, but we usually provide some for the New Hope Elementary and the New Hope High School. Looking through the staffing today with that, we think we can it will do two things to kind of help be a win-win for everybody. First of all, for the 7th and 8th grade, we pretty much stay where they are. They're at the end of the middle school for this year. We're looking at, they're on the capital plan to add some classrooms and corridors and such there. But it would add, and this is funded by our matrix there, it would add a counselor and an assistant principal to the high school. It would put about 600 people in the high school, which is a good-sized high school. Just in reference, Madison County High School is about 520, and Buckhorn Hayes Green are 1,300. So it puts you in there where it makes the staffing a little bit easier there, but it also adds that extra layer of support with an extra administrator and counselor. It wouldn't affect the number of counselors and administrators in the K-6, and it would allow us, instead of kind of using the local units as patchwork in both places, to actually to lower the class sizes if it was just a K-6. Right now, the elementary school, just because of the staffing, with it being a K-8, would be looking at using their federal Title I funds to try to lower some of those class sizes. If we did this, we could lower the class sizes, and those federal funds could be flexed a little bit more. So this is something we would have to go through the plaintiffs with our desegregation case, because technically we're changing a grade configuration. But I did want to get your input on this and kind of see where you guys at. Obviously, Ms. Stowe.
Well, the other night, those were mostly parents of high school children. I think that we have got to go back to that community and talk to people who have middle school students, and probably students that are in the 6th grade, your rising 7th graders, and your rising 8th graders. The main thing we have to do is do what's best for kids. And, I think we have to look at a lot of data to see if, even though I know it would give them another counselor, yes, they need another counselor. Yes, they need another AP because they just have 2 people, and it's hard. But, everything where the high school is important, middle school kids are important too. And nobody has called me, but I know the one time this came up with another school, parents were very, very against their children sharing time with high school students. And we were talking about the addition there. That would be further separating. You said you were going to leave them at the
for this year.
Yeah,
or
for this year. And I just don't know that this is something that we even talk about for next year. I just think that the board has to see a lot of data, and we have to hear from those parents in New Hope that it would impact and Owens Crossroads, it would be impacting their children. And we don't have another 7-12 anywhere. Now, my children graduated from a K-12 school, and they're not, I don't think they're marked in any way, but I think they're okay. But it's certainly a step back from what we have tried to do. So I just think we have to look at everything before we do that.
You're going to make the high school 7 through 12?
Yeah, so right now, New Hope Elementary is pre-K through 12, and they have, it's a handful to deal with, and they're the only.
Pre-K through 8.
Pre-K through 8, what did I say?
You said 12.
Pre-K through 12. Yeah. Pre-K through 8. They're Title I, so dealing with the federal funds and the paperwork and all that is more involved. The way we, with our special needs program, if there's 2 feeder schools, generally we'll place it at one of the elementary schools. So they're kind of the hub for Owens Crossroads and New Hope. So they have the bulk of the special needs kids, so that need a lot of attention. So they're located there. They have about 70 or so kids in pre-K. Got that actually right here. 60 kids in pre-K. So you have pre-K that you got some very young kids in there, and you have middle school sports that you have to cover also. And the way it's staffed, they just have one assistant principal and covering with Title I, with pre-K, with special needs, self-contained units, and with a wide range of age. And 700 students in pre-K through 8 is a large burden. So by moving 2 grade levels and just staffing them as we report it to the ALSDE, to the State Department, if we say, hey, we're going to say New Hope's a K-6 and the high school's a 712, the elementary school is staffed the same way as far as counselors and administrators. The high school would gain a counselor and an administrator.
The students physically would be, they would be not really realizing the changes, it's the admin that changes.
That's correct. And technically those teachers are under the care of, under the umbrella of the high school.
Is that not the way you see it? I mean, the students pretty much don't see a difference, do they?
They will eat in the cafeteria with high school kids.
Well,
I
so it
just
does
know,
physically
I just
change.
know that when my grandson went to play soccer at the high school as a 7th grader, when his dad came home, he said, "Oh, those people have got beards and tattoos," So, I mean,
So
it's
they would
kind
go to
of,
the lunchroom in a different place and PE in a different
right,
place?
in PE.
Well, their
and-
PE would be in the same
Instructionally-
place.
Instructionally, it would stay in the same place.
And their PE would still be in the same gym, because the middle school gym's between the elementary and the high school gym. And we would obviously work the lunchtime to eat separately, with lunch waves, they got, with the size of the cafeteria can get them in there. So, I mean, we would definitely work with.
Do we have any 712 configurations? In our
We don't, and the
I
reason we
I know in our
don't,
district, but
yeah.
in the surrounding district.
well, the reason we don't is because we don't have any. We don't have any because we've never had any. So it's almost like, okay, well, something needs to be done. New Hope, the part that the high school struggles with is the coverage with administrators and counselors. The electives situation there, we're trying to work on that to expand that. This would increase kind of the pot there, where short term, I'm not sure exactly what we could add. We're looking at some adjuncts to add that, but it would kind of make the faculty more robust. We think that could, in the future, maybe increase some of those offerings. And, and with that, they're all on the same, campus there. So it would allow us to staff that easier. There's a reason there's no other 3A classification schools that are grades 9 through 12. It's because it's extremely difficult to staff and run. I think our school system has tried to fit a square peg in a round hole by forcing that at New Hope, and you can't run it efficiently with 379 students in a 9-12 school when you're trying to offer everything that community expects. And there's an easy way to fix it. But I do know we do have to talk with the community, and we all need to be on board.
Hard data. We need to see what's going to be offered, what's going to be different. How's it going to benefit every child? We can't just say, oh, we can do this. When you move a middle school into a high school, they're still playing everything, boys and girls. So even if you had one more administrator, that's another set of things to be done besides the high school activities. I don't think you would do away with your middle school sports.
No, you wouldn't. And that, the K-8, where those team of 2 cover middle school sports plus everything else, obviously the principal and assistant principal wouldn't have to cover that. But what it would do short term for the elementary school, for the 6th grade coming up, they're looking at 65 kids in the 6th grade and 2 teachers. So if that's a K-6, the way the staffing works, you can have 3 teachers covering those 65 kids, not 2, before dipping into your federal funds. Their other big grade is 2nd grade, 3 teachers with 72 kids, so you're looking at 25 kids in the 2nd grade. We could add another teacher there right off the bat to make that be below 20. I know those are the 2 you know, I don't have that data, I don't have the staffing sheet for you, so you need to see that.
I need to, and we've got to go back down there.
Yes.
We've got to go back.
So we
We've
have
got
our
to hear
communi-
what parents want.
So we have our community
know.
advisory group, so I can work with those, and then maybe we can have another open meeting and do a listening session and kind of present.
And, you know,
what the games
I
will be.
just think it's too quick to do it this coming school year, but that's just me, you
Well,
know.
all that would change is you'd have an extra counselor and administrator on that campus.
It seems like everybody benefits, and 7 and 8 doesn't lose anything to me.
Right.
Everybody else.
It
Well, you'd
seems
have
that
an
way.
extra counselor and assistant principal, but you'd also have 2 more grades to take care of.
Right, and so
So
there's
you
an
still have
extra.
that many more activities to go to. You'd have another person, but that person is just coming from here to here. You're not really adding a person, you're just shifting a person to a different place to still take care of 7th and 8th grade. Because it doesn't eliminate any of the activities.
I think you add a
So-
person, don't you?
Well, you add a person, but now you have 7th and 8th grade to take care of.
Technically, your elementary assistant principal doesn't have
Because
to
now
cover
your
athletic
now your
events.
elementary school, right now, the principal in the elementary school takes care of that. Now, they're off the hook, and you've got another person, but now they've got all the middle school activities to go to. And would that leave them 3A, or is that going to
That was the
do that?
question I
No,
had.
they
Would it-
stay
would it
3A.
go- they would
The
stay 3A.
classification's grades 10 through 12. So we
Because
have
I know
3.
historically, that's the one school we've often looked at whether or not to let 8th grade play up. And so if that's going to change where they are and whether they have enough people to field a team, that although athletics is obviously not the priority, it is an important part of the school.
Well, the burden right now that's on the New Hope Elementary, just in comparison, Central is comparable in size. They earn enough to get a second assistant principal. But they just have one section of pre-K. They just started it. You know, New Hope has a very robust pre-K program. Central does not have the self-contained unit that goes to Madison County Elementary. New Hope has, has to do with, so it is different than, the responsibilities are different than any other school.
It absolutely is, and I agree with that. But, you know, Central doesn't have the room to have those things either. You know, they're in portables now.
Yeah.
They don't have room for
Right.
a pre-K. So, and it works really well for them to have the 3, you know, to have 2 assistants. And, you know, New Hope needs that too. But at the end of the day, we have to do what's right for kids. And, you know, I have to be shown that this is what's right.
How old
Because-
is that New Hope School, the actual high school? New Hope High School, is it 20 years old?
Carrie, is it about 20 years old?
Built
New
in
Hope
the
High School?
50s.
High school, 99.
Prior to that, it was a K-12, correct? New Hope.
They actually had a division, but it was a K-12 campus scenario.
But they've never been a.
It was under
The
one
State Department of
principal.
Education, if you call it a K-12, they staff you like an elementary school. So New Hope calling it like itself as a K-8, the State Department staffs it like an elementary school. They don't staff it like a middle school. And that's why they're, you know, Buckhorn Middle School with 2 assistant principals and 659 kids. New Hope Elementary with 680 more kids with pre-K, with special needs self-contained, which Buckhorn has that too, with the age group. It is, you know, an incredibly difficult
It has one
job.
assistant principal.
One assistant principal. And we give them an extra local unit just to try to help, you know, because they have 2 of the self-contained unit because they get Owens Crossroads kids. They have 2 self-contained teachers and, you know, 20 kids. So with a wide age range, and it is, their administrators spend a lot of time down there.
I think if you had a sheet of paper that said, this is what it is now, and this is what it will be. so
Right.
It would
Okay.
make
I
it
can-
easier. to
Plus,
make it-
I'd like to see the data of what their academic success is, their achievements, those kids that are together. I know that Central's, you know, since they're there from kindergarten and, you know, through the 8th grade, they really continue to improve the whole time. And I would imagine that New Hope's is the same.
Yeah, and you.
We need to look at that. That's
Yeah,
very important.
The K-8 has a lot of advantages.
It does.
And you've seen Huntsville has gone to K-8 in a lot of theirs. And kind of likewise, if, you know, a 7-12 is similar in that way where you have kind of longer in there. So there's, you know, we can, I'll dig that up and then I'll bring it back for reconsideration. It would be a quick turnaround for next year,
It
but it
would.
would, you know, if that's not something that, if we don't want to take, the State Department would need to know before May to reclassify when they issue
And
all the
how does the DOJ figure into that? I mean, would they not have a say in that?
We just kind of mentioned what, their reaction was they're not moving them and you're not changing a grade you're not moving them and you're not rezoning, so they would be open to basically a notification to them. But obviously the board, we'd want the board on board and the community on board before.
Yeah, you just need to hear from them. I mean, you know, if that's what everybody wants, that's great, but if it's the best thing for our students.
Okay. All right. I think it's up to you to introduce her.
Yes, we now
Yes.
have 3 community members that requested to address the board. I do want to let you know that your comments do need to be limited to 3 minutes so that everyone has time to address the board. But each person will be given equal opportunity. In the event that you want to address the board on an issue involving the general reputation and character, physical condition, professional competence, mental health, and/or in some instances, job performance of an individual, the board will hear your comments in executive session. If you are unsure whether your comments should be made in executive session, please see our board attorney, Ms. Cynthia Thompson. Otherwise, Ms. Megan Tyler, please feel free to address the board. I'll start your timer as you speak, and thank you for coming.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'd like to speak to you tonight concerning the condition of Newmarket School. Newmarket is said to be the oldest community in Madison County. It is rich in history with our first school building built in 1852. Our community has seen many problems and has always prospered. The current Newmarket School campus consists of 5 buildings connected with open-air walkways. The oldest building was built from 1933 to 1938 with WPA labor, with the remaining buildings in 1938, 1940, 1987, and 1993, with additions in 1998 and 2002. The last complete renovation was in 1978, and this was due to a fire in January of 1977. As you can see from the pictures and the packets that were provided to you, the current condition of our buildings need help that you can provide. We are facing issues of mold and mildew, brown recluse spider infestations, leaking roofs, deteriorating walls from the leaks in the windows and the roof. We have 2 basement classrooms that are unusable due to flooding, mold, and mildew. Each of our buildings have a multitude of problems that need to be addressed. This does not include the safety issues that we are facing. In today's society, with the latest tragedy being today in Maryland, we have open-air walkways that our students must travel to be able to go to the lunchroom or to check out a library book. I know security is currently being addressed now at Buckhorn High School with the addition of the new walls that Dr. Minsky had mentioned. At Newmarket, we do not have an airlock. Our parents, when they come in and our visitors, have straight access to our children. But we ask you, what about our children? We have classrooms that have doors that open to the parking lot. The only thing standing between our children are our teachers. We're asking a great service of our teachers to be standing between the dangers of outside and our children. We as parents should not fear for our children's safety while they're walking to lunch. As parents and educators, we tell our children that you can be anything. Anything you want. An astronaut, a lawyer, a doctor, and yes, even the president. But how can we tell them that when we as a school system cannot even provide them with an updated and equitable facility to go to learn in? Our children are visiting Legacy and Endeavor and telling us, those schools are so nice. It makes our school look like a dump. How can we tell our children that they can excel and rise above their limitations with education when we send them into a classroom that's 36 degrees in the winter and 103 in the summer? For them to ignore the smell of raw sewage when it rains. To shake out their nap mats so they don't get bitten by spiders. To ignore the mold and mildew and decay. How can we believe what we say when they see the other schools and wonder, why can't we have that?
Ms. Tyler, your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
As Mr. Anderson comes up, I'll just kind of
Yeah.
add in here, we do have, obviously the open airway is not ideal, and on our capital plan is to get those corridors. Thank you for speaking. We do have the key card entry for all those exterior buildings, and we do have the buzz-in A-phone video thing that Miss Carey's office staff to buzz them in there now. So that was something we added in the last 2 years there. So, welcome, Mr. Anderson. Good to see you again.
Thank you. It's kind of odd being on this side of the microphone.
Kind of odd.
20 years ago, literally 20 years ago, candidate Jeff Anderson stood here in this relatively new room and talked to the board. Now I'm back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time. And tonight I'm here to ask you just to think about something. As we all know, there's a lot of news recently, and it's good news, it's bad news, it's change, and I want to bring, but some things haven't changed. We got a lot of new people coming in. We're going to have growth. It's still we, are an incredibly underfunded school system. Incredibly underfunded. But we do an amazing job with our parents, our teachers, our students. You guys, thank you for that. But because we're so incredibly underfunded, we have a large need for flexibility in what we do. So I've gone back and forth. I've talked to some of you. I understand our predicament with the federal courts, and that it doesn't look like we have enough money, nor are we going to get permission to build the high school. Got it. Understand that. But to add on to Sparkman is an irreversible decision. And with growth, with change, I ask you to think about not making an irreversible decision. Go back to what Mr. Massey brought to us. It was us at that point. Think about the 9, 10, 11, 12 again. You can build a smaller school. You don't change the community of the school itself. The federal court probably would be okay with that because you aren't having a community impact. But it gives you flexibility. It's also safer. By adding on to Sparkman High School, you're adding nooks and crannies and stairwells and walkways and things that you have to patrol. And if you can't patrol well, it's not safe. So by building a smaller school, splitting the students, Mr. Massey showed us, I believe, how we could still offer everything that we do, but it's safer, that more teachers would know more kids. I just ask you not to make an irreversible decision without due consideration of build the smaller school. You have the property, and you have flexibility in the future. With these new companies coming in, thousands of jobs, if they land in the Sparkman area, great, because then you can go back, get more growth money, and add where you need to add. But to add on to the existing Sparkman High School is irreversible. And I ask you to consider that as you vote to what you're going to do moving forward. Thank you for your time.
All right, and Ms. Talley.
I have a couple letters from parents and students at Newmarket that were not able to make it tonight and asked me to read them for them. The first one says, as parents of 2 students at Newmarket, my husband and I were concerned to learn that mold and mildew are present in the school building and ventilation systems. Both of our sons have an allergy to mold as demonstrated through allergy testing, and both require bi-weekly allergy shots to control their response to mold and other allergens. In addition, our oldest son has allergy-induced asthma. We have worked diligently with our allergists since our children were toddlers to control their allergic responses through the use of immunotherapy, prescription medication, and allergen avoidance. We respectfully ask that every effort is made to ensure that the mold situation at Newmarket School is remediated and that repairs are made to prevent a reoccurrence in the future. Second one says, as a concerned parent of Newmarket School, I've learned of issues of mold, leaking roofs, temperature problems in classrooms, and flooring issues. We were told these problems were going to be addressed. However, the only thing that has been done was the laying of vinyl laminate flooring in the front of the office. I would like to know when to expect these problems to be fixed and who I can stay in contact with so I can make sure these issues are being fixed properly and in a timely manner. The third one says, I cannot be here tonight and neither can others, but that doesn't mean we don't care. Some start the school history in 1852 with the building of the Newmarket Female Seminary near Mount Perrin, which later moved to College Street. Right after the Civil War, the Newmarket Baptist Church was used as a school on land between Hurricane Road and Cemetery Road. The next school, around 1890, was owned and operated by North Alabama Methodist Conference and called the Huntsville District Training School. Between 1900 and 1910, the state operated the school, the Jack School, and the Bragg School were consolidated with Newmarket. In 1919, the residents of Newmarket raised money which was matched by the state to pay for a new school building. The Howard Hill School from Mountain Fort Creek Road was consolidated with Newmarket. In the 1920s, Walnut Grove School's 11th and 12th graders, and later the 9th and 10th, went to Newmarket and Hazel Green, with students east of the school going to Newmarket and those to the west to Hazel Green. In 1931, the Oakley School burned, and so it consolidated with Plevna School. Between 1933 and 38, the WPA built Newmarket School Gymnasium with stone hauled from local mountains. In 1939, Newmarket School burned and was rebuilt. A community cannery was also built on site. In 1941, Newmarket School's first lunchroom began in the basement of the school. During the late 50s, during Mr. Sims' term as principal, the lunchroom was moved to the cannery.
Your time is out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilkerson, you know, if you want to kind of give us an update on some of the things going on there at Newmarket, since it's kind of been brought up here.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. Wonderful parents, I might add. I've met with them, and they've been sweet and nothing but very nice and kind during all the meetings. They were correct. There were a few areas of concern. We did send, we actually had the local maintenance man, the plant manager, on site, and also we sent another man up there, and the areas of concern, we cleaned it up, and then there's the thing you microban it that prevents it from growing back, and then we've checked it twice since then, and nothing's come back, and we verified that. However, to say that we do have a leaking roof up there, it's on the capital plan to get it fixed, and the corridors are on the capital plan to get them fixed. The basement rooms, they're almost non-repairable to some. Right now, they're used basically, they're just used for storage and stuff, and that's what they'll be used for in the future. We're actually going to turn it into a plant manager's office and stuff, because we do have the water. It keeps the water tables high in that area to begin with, and we can't keep it coming up under the slab and coming into that building. So we're going to address it with just storage and make sure that it's well ventilated and take care of that. We have already started on several issues that she didn't even have the opportunity to speak about. The floor, we've already started fixing the floors in the corridors. Hopefully we're going to replace that roof. So we've cleaned up any environmental and health concerns as of today. The safety concerns are on the capital plan, and we hope to get those fixed soon. And we're going to keep working with them, and we're going to make sure this school lacks nothing different than legacy and endeavor, and make sure it happens and help them out. So I think we've got a good plan, and they've been supportive where they are, and we're going to make it a little bit better. But the main thing today, environmentally, it's a healthy school today, and hopefully will be tomorrow and for the next months and years to come. We just, Ms. Smith, the principal up there, has done a lot too this last month, and we've cleaned out a lot. I know there's a request about spiders. Well, spiders hanging around papers, so we've cleaned out a large majority of the papers, and the rest of it should be cleaned up by spring break. And so the only thing lacking from this point on is getting a new roof and getting those corridors in, and we're going to make the classrooms prettier and dress them up a little bit, and they're going to have a fantastic school.
What about the flooring?
The flooring, we've already started reworking the flooring, and we put down a test base just to make sure. I had a company come out with us. We put it down, and it's been down about 5 weeks now, I think, about 5 weeks, and it's working great. So we're going to finish out and do the rest of the flooring. Actually, some at night, some on weekends, a lot during spring break, and we hope to have all that flooring done here in the next month.
All right.
Thank Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
Thanks, Madison.
Okay.
Gentlemen.
All right, I'll move on and say the recommendation of approval for financial statements, payments of bills, and cash reports for January of 2018.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion concerning the payment of bills and cash reports? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the following bids as attached.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second regarding bids. Is there any discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Item C, I recommend approval of the refinance of loan request for Buckhorn High School.
That's D.
I'm sorry, that C is removed off of.
Okay.
Motion.
Scratch that one off. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Second.
We have a motion and a second regarding a bank transfer request for Buckhorn High School. Is there any question or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I recommend approval of the lease agreement between Madison County Board of Education and the Central Youth Athletic Association for the use of approximately 6.5 acres for youth recreational activities on the campus of Central School.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
This has never been before us as an informational item. Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
What's been happening?
Yeah.
So Carrie and I have been working with the CYAA and Central School and kind of that partnership. It's a huge, there's recreational fields that the CYAA basically exclusively uses, but it's on the campus of the school. So it's kind of, it falls on Mr. Hughes's responsibility to kind of take care of that. It would be kind of like if you had a rec center that the school owns. So kind of working with some improvements the CYA kind of wants to do and to try to kind of ease the burden of the school. If we organize a lease agreement, we think that's a win-win for everybody involved. It's something that hasn't been brought before for informational item. We can carry it over if you'd like. But we have talked about it for months with CYA and with Mr. Hughes, the principal there. Carrie, you want to add anything to kind of?
Yes, sir. The reason, and I kind of made a request to go ahead and get on the approval status, just because they're getting into the spring ball season. And right now in the past, they've used porta-johns and portable toiletry items and stuff. They're looking at trying to do something more permanent, but they can't do anything more permanent until the lease is in their name. And so that'll not only clean it up and make it much nicer out there. They do take, right now, they take care of all the fields, and they handle everything with those. There's 3 small fields they use, and it's a youth league. It's not high school level league or anything. And so this just gives them the opportunity to go ahead and make all these improvements during their big season and try to get it done right on the front end of their baseball, softball, t-ball. And that's the reason we're asking for it now. But they need it, and it gives us a lot of, Mr. Hughes, the principal there, it's a lot of problems for him because everybody wants to call and complain about a field when they got an issue there. Now we turn it over, and we have some strict guidelines on how they'll use it, what they'll do with it. They'll fence it, and within 60 days at any given time, if we don't like anything going on, we can remove that lease, and the property reverts back to us.
So if y'all have been talking about it for months, what was the delay on putting it on a work session earlier than bringing it straight to a vote? Was there were we waiting on a contract, or were we waiting on a?
It was getting with the CYA president, trying to get some information
That was
back,
on me.
and they were also looking at pulling health permits to put in restrooms.
For the restrooms.
And then, with that along with trying to develop a lease, and Miss Cindy's been great, she's went right through that, but.
No recreation uses any campus more than Central's, and it's almost.
Spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, so it is, and you know, if we build any kind of structure on anywhere on a campus that's ours, it's under, you know, our kind of thing. So we lease items for fire departments to do things, and you know, that kind of deal. With fire departments, it's a longer term. It's usually 99 years. We wanted to kind of shorten the term and to have it out. If if things got a little bit out of hand, because it's still the car rider line is going to circle that. And
it doesn't keep any of our students from playing on during the school day, that's still our field to use.
we don't even use
the back part,
use
but
them.
we're not have to worry about the front part or anything.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to, if we
Well, those
wanted to
students use
it,
them, they just
Yeah.
use them when they play rec ball there,
Right.
not associated with
But
school.
we don't hold the carnival or anything.
Right.
Fall
And they've been
festival.
going through the Madison County Health Department and the Madison County Dental Commission to get permits. They're doing everything according to the rules, and I'll follow up and check behind them to make sure they do. So what they put in is nice and meets all building codes
Because
requirements.
bathrooms have always been a little bit of an issue at Central. Is that
Yeah.
going to put us,
This is going to make a big difference for them and for us. It's just not good to have those on any campus.
no, that's
This will
not
be
a
permanent.
pleasant conversation,
But the principal still would be able, if something was not going well, I mean, whoever is, I mean, all of us sitting here that have been involved in, rec leagues before, that leadership changes. And with a lack of commitment for the next generation, the principal of that school, whoever that might be, they would have some control, right? That's what I need to know.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. It makes reference to Chief Operations Officer having to review and approve everything that takes place. The principal there has control of the activities. He will have the authority and power at any time to do what he needs to do on those fields. Yeah, it doesn't take anything away. It's not that they have rampant rule of those couple of fields down there. They don't have that. It's just opportunity for them to make it a little bit nicer, invest some of the money in it, and for them to control it.
Why do we want this? Why do we want to keep it?
Because if they were any fence line they wanted to improve or anything like that, since that's completely our property and we're not leasing it out, it involves us and the school more than it
No, I
needs to.
mean, why wouldn't we just sell it to them? I mean, we think we're going to use it one day.
I don't think we'd like to get rid of any property,
Yeah.
just, we don't know about the future, how much growth we might have there. And we can lease it to them, and they'll take care of it, give us some opportunity to use it for field day or whatever we need to. But we always own it, we can always go back and take it back if we need to.
But we never use it.
Right, currently,
Well, the students do, just in the, these nonprofits really don't have funds to go buy property, like fire departments. They don't really want to buy a property. Them being there helps the community and the school and the kids. And so we're not charging them for the lease.
$1 a year to lease property. It's great for the kids, it's just great for the community, and it's great for the children that go to that school. It's productive for everybody. It's a way for us not to have to pay and finance everything, the fencing, the restrooms, anything that takes place down there on that field.
Yeah.
And then we carry no liability, because they carry a full liability policy.
Well, I know that Alex had talked to Commissioner Craig Hill about moving the car line, the car rider line. So
Right.
how's that going to impact this?
That's a good question. It actually, it does not impact it. We're trying to enlarge the loop on the campus.
Right.
And actually, we'll pull it further away from those ball fields. It'll be pulled further east, the car rider line, and that just gives more stack lanes is what we're trying to do there. So it won't impact those fields at all.
there's not by any chance a speed bump in this lease for that area right next to the field where people like to go over that railroad track at about 80. Just wondering if maybe we could put that in there.
And Cindy, you've looked over this, and
Yeah, I prepared it in accordance with the language that you've used in leases before,
And you feel like we're protected in this, right?
as much as you can be. You're more protected than you are now if you're using the fields without the insurance requirement. I don't know that that's happening.
I don't know either.
But
The assumption is that it is.
I know sometimes they practice when it's lightning, but I don't know if we would have been liable for that or not.
the board has the unilateral right to terminate it with 60 days' notice. So if the principal had an issue, he could.
He
come
would
back
go to
the board.
Carrie, right? You would be the person that,
Yes, ma'am. So far, we've had great luck, great blessings with all of our lease programs. it's really benefited the school long-term for sure. It's not the dollar of the year, it's everything that comes with that lease that helps the school out.
And they can't, any construction or anything they do on the facility, construction-wise, has to be approved by KID. And they can't do anything that interferes with or is counterproductive to your operation of the elementary school and the adjacent property. So there are as many safeguards as we could think of.
Will there let restrooms feed into the lagoon? Just
Actually,
wondering.
They will not.
Where will it go?
They'll put fill lines in.
Okay.
We get a cut off.
The last lagoon.
Do we get a cut off
Okay.
the concession stand?
All right.
Is there any further question, discussion regarding the lease agreement with the CYA? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I recommend approval of the Section 504 procedural manual as attached.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the 504 manual? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. I recommend approval of the following contracts for services.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question regarding contracts for services? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is this the one you needed to change?
It is, and I notified the board on the personnel item I'm about to recommend on page 189. I'm going to remove items 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to pull those three
And I would like
personnel items.
to vote on the addendum, page 1, number 2. Can we vote on that separately, please?
Okay. So on the addendum,
Page 1,
page 1, number 2.
item 2.
I'll pull that item for a separate vote. So I recommend the approval of the personnel items and the addendum, except for item number 2 on page 1 and items 2 through 4 on page 189.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any question regarding the recommendation for personnel items? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I recommend item number 2 on page 1 of the addendum. I'll give you a minute to look at that if you need.
Motion.
Oh, no. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any question or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No.
All right, I recommend approval of the following contracts for the following principals. This is a renewal for Tammy Berger. This will be effective July 1, 2018. Tammy Berger, Randy Hill, Jeremy Lowry, Jeff Malone, Kathy Reynolds, and Keith Trewick.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question regarding the principal contracts for renewal for Tammy Berger, Randy Hill, Jeremy Lowry, Jeff Malone, Kathy Reynolds, and Keith Trewick?
Not specifically for any one of them, but just in general. I think there was some kind of committee put together to review compensation.
Yes.
What's the status of that?
So they do have a recommendation. I will be presenting that at the April work session. We're waiting on the 2.5% raise that we think is coming to be approved. It's in conference committee. It's got to be revoted on by the House and the Senate, then signed by the governor. Once the governor signs that, I'll present that as part of the new salary schedule. So these renewal are going to be on what our schedule is currently, and they'll have an option to convert theirs after July 1 to the salary schedule I will be recommending to you guys. But I'll be bringing it up for input first, just on the first meeting in April. I won't bring it for approval until the bill is signed by the governor with that. So we're kind of, I think that was David and Nathan working with some of
So
our
would
principals.
that would impact this right here. I mean, because you look at this and if you look at the number of students and pay, I mean, it's all over the board.
It
Makes no
is.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wide range, and it's an issue, and we are looking forward to bringing a little bit more consistency to our principal
Streamline.
contracts. But right now, it's in accordance to the salary schedule.
And this, the way we do it, this is just the way we came up with, or is this some kind of state process?
So the state allows for principals to have a negotiated contract. The board kind of had the position, our negotiated contract is what is on our salary schedule. Okay, and the board has gone off of the salary schedule for 2 different principals. You could go off the salary schedule for every one of them.
But we compare teacher to some sort of standard principal, and the higher gets, I mean, the higher salary wins. This is just a Madison County thing that we do?
That is one that
Okay.
y'all approved, yes. And that, it's kind of been the way it's been for a long time, and
That usually only impacts elementary principals, correct?
elementary has the widest range because our elementary salary schedule is so low. There's a disclaimer in there, they can default over to the teacher salary schedule. And honestly, they get paid higher on a teacher salary scale than they do our principal salary scale. So that's the problem, when you get paid more as a teacher than a principal. So some principals don't fall under that category. They haven't been a teacher quite long enough to make more as a teacher. So we have elementary principals with just incredible ranges in salaries, and it's and so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that corrected. And it will be, so what will happen, principals can opt for the new, if they're currently under contract, which will be these and others that are, because you need to approve these within 90 days of the end of school. So,
But we can wait now, right? Because.
well,
Technically, when we revamp the salary schedule, everybody will be under
Well,
contract.
no, what if they're higher here than on the new one?
right, so if they're hired here on the new one, they could opt to stay on that until their contract comes up again.
That's why you'd want to wait.
So if, help me with contract law here, Cindy, so if you're gonna, on contract law for principals, if you're gonna non-renew them, you have to notify them 90 days before the end of their contract. So we always renew principals or non-renew them within that 90 days, that's March. We had hoped the budget was gonna come through, but, things slowed down in the legislature, and there's a raise coming, so they're gonna get a 2.5% raise, everybody will, based on that. So, we need that to kind of go through first, then fix the salary schedule to bring that back up. But you're right, the timing on this doesn't exactly work out the way we wanted, but we're kind of at the point right now where we need to move on recommending this. Ken, you want to add any insight?
Every principal, all 28 of ours, they actually get a new salary sheet every year with their step raise, and also their actual salary is computed every year because they are entitled to the step raise. So what you're doing here is you're approving them to have a contract for the next 3 years with the vote tonight. And then we will adjust to the salary schedule, whatever it is. If the salary schedule stayed exactly the same, the board did not approve a new one, and the 2.5% raise did not go through, then those are the figures that would be on the current salary schedule for the next year. But we would actually do a salary sheet for every single principal. So what you're seeing there is if the board doesn't approve the revised proposal for the principal salary schedule, and if the state doesn't approve the raise, then you are looking at the correct figures based on what our current salary schedule is for them for next year.
Yeah, I get that.
But every principal will get so every principal every year gets a new sheet with the updated salary.
Any further discussion or question regarding the contracts for principals that are currently recommended? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I have a transfer request. That is, I don't know if you guys want to go to executive session for that, but I will be recommending approval of that. I could recommend it and you guys could approve it, or?
Did you say it's pulled?
We pull it.
Oh, we did pull it. Never mind there. Okay, that's it then.
Stop it.
I did.
Well, in that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second on a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Feels almost confusing. You're not sure what to do.
An executive session.